The doorbell rang like a gunshot in the hollow quiet of Christian's Brooklyn walk-up, shattering the fragile piece he'd stitched together over 6 months of grief. He froze mid-sip of his lukewarm coffee, the mug trembling in his hand as if it knew what was coming. Another cruel reminder from a world that refused to let Roger go. Heart pounding, he shuffled to the door in his threadbare sweatpants, the kind Roger used to tease him about, calling them his post-apocalyptic chic, and yanked it open to find a nondescript brown box propped against the frame. No return address, just his name scrawled in Roger's mother's precise, looping cursive. For our son, Christian Hale. He didn't cry when the paramedics wheeled Roger out on that gurney last spring, his best friend's hand. Now lover, now husband, limp and cold under the sterile sheet, the siren wailing like a lover's final scream into the Manhattan night. No, the tears came later, in the sterile hush of the funeral home, when Roger's parents, Evelyn and Harlan Whitaker, stood across the room like statues carved from Vermont granite, their eyes sliding over Christian as if he were a smudge on the family portrait. "He was our boy," Evelyn had whispered to the rabbi, her voice a blade wrapped in silk. "Our only boy." And Christian, the graphic designer from Ohio who'd crashed into Roger's life at a Soho gallery opening 4 years prior, had swallowed the lump in his throat and nodded, because what else could he do? Roger was gone. 42 years old, vital as a summer storm, felled by a drunk driver on the FDR Drive, and Christian was left holding the shards of their shared dreams. The brownstone they almost bought in Bed-Stuy, the dog they kept putting off adopting, the vows they'd exchanged in a quiet City Hall ceremony 2 years back, rings glinting like promises under the fluorescent lights. The box felt heavier than it should as he dragged it inside, the cardboard whispering against the scuffed hardwood floors Roger had sworn he'd refinish next weekend. "Babe, Scout's honor." Christian's laugh back then had been easy, laced with that Midwestern sarcasm he'd never quite shaken, but now it echoed hollow in his chest. He set the package on the kitchen table, the one scarred from late-night pizza sessions and Roger's habit of doodling logos on napkins, and sliced it open with a butter knife. Tissue paper bloomed like funeral flowers, crinkling under his fingers, and there, nestled in the folds, was the dress. It was simple, almost demure, a knee-length sheath of ivory silk, the kind you'd wear to a garden wedding or a mother's brunch, with delicate lace trim along the neckline and hem. Christian's breath caught, a sharp hitch that tasted like rust. Why a dress? From them, Evelyn and Harlan, who'd attended the wedding with pursed lips and a check for the honeymoon they never cashed, who still sent Christmas cards addressed to the Whitaker household, as if Christian were a polite afterthought. He lifted it carefully, the fabric cool and slippery against his calloused palms, and that's when he saw it. Embroidered in elegant script just below the bodice, in thread the color of faded roses, the name Serafina. Serafina. The word hit him like a sucker punch, doubling him over the table as the dress pooled in his lap. Who the hell was Serafina? Not Roger's sister. God, no. Roger was an only child, raised in that sprawling farmhouse outside Burlington by parents who prized flannel shirts and football over frills. Not a niece, not an ex. Roger's past was an open book, or so Christian had thought, pages filled with college flings and a brief, disastrous engagement to a sorority girl in his 20s that he'd laughed off as youthful experimentation over whiskey sours at their favorite dive in the East Village. Serafina. The name swirled in his mind, elegant and archaic, like something out of a Bronte novel, utterly alien to the man who'd kissed him sloppy at pride parades and belted show tunes in the shower, his baritone rumbling through the steam. Christian's hands shook as he unfolded the accompanying note, Evelyn's handwriting again, steady as a surgeon's scalpel. Dearest Christian, in Roger's memory, we thought you'd appreciate this. It was his favorite, worn once with such grace. Wear it well for the family. Love, Harlan and Evelyn. Grace? Family? The words blurred as hot tears finally broke free, splashing onto the silk. He stumbled to the couch, the dress clutched like a lifeline or a noose, and buried his face in it, inhaling deeply for any trace of Roger. Cologne, sweat, the faint citrus of his shampoo. But it smelled only of mothballs and regret. That night, sleep evaded him like a faithless lover. He paced the apartment, the city lights flickering through the blinds like distant fires, and pulled out the box of Roger's things he'd shoved under the bed. Dog-eared scripts from his off-Broadway days, a Polaroid of them at Coney Island grinning with cotton candy mustaches, the leather journal where Roger had scribbled love notes amid grocery lists. Flipping through it now, Christian searched for clues, any whisper of Serafina, but found only the mundane poetry of their life. C's laugh could light the goddamn skyline. Marry that man yesterday. His chest ached, a fresh wound reopening. Was this some cruel joke? A test from the in-laws who'd never warmed to their lifestyle, as Harlan called it in passive-aggressive voicemails? Or worse, had Roger hidden a piece of himself? A secret so deep it unraveled everything Christian thought he knew? By dawn, resolve hardened in his gut like cold steel. He couldn't do this alone. He needed answers, and there was only one place to find them. The Whitaker's farm, 2 hours north on I-89, where the Green Mountains rolled like God's own quilt and secrets festered like untreated wounds. Christian showered, the hot water scalding his skin, and packed a duffel, jeans, a hoodie that still carried Roger's scent, the dress wrapped in tissue like contraband. As he locked the door, the neighbor's tabby slinked by, eyeing him with feline indifference, and for a wild moment, he envied its simplicity. No ghosts, no names that didn't belong. The drive was a blur of autumn leaves whipping past the windshield, Vermont's fiery palate mocking his inner frost. Radio static gave way to NPR's Book Hour, a droning voice dissecting some tragic romance, and Christian slammed the dial off, his knuckles white on the wheel. Roger had loved these roads, detours for apple cider and ghost stories about revolutionary spies. "This is our America, Chris," he'd say, hand on Christian's thigh. Messy, beautiful, full of hidden paths. Hidden paths. The phrase lodged like a thorn. Pulling into the gravel drive of the Whitaker farm, the house loomed white-clabbered, gabled roof sagging under ivy. A relic from an era when men wore suspenders and love was straightforward as a handshake. Harlan was on the porch, rocking in his Adirondack chair, pipe smoke curling like question marks. He rose slowly, all 6'4" of him, face weathered as old leather, eyes the same piercing blue as Roger's. "Christian," he rumbled, voice like gravel under tires. "Didn't expect you so soon." Evelyn appeared in the doorway, apron dusted with flour, her silver bob impeccable even in mourning. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes, tight, appraising. "Come in, dear. Pie's fresh. Apple cranberry, Roger's favorite." They ate in the kitchen, the dress burning a hole in Christian's bag by the door, conversation skirting the edges like wary cats. Harlan spoke of the harvest, Evelyn of church quilting bees, but the air thickened with unspoken weight. Finally, Christian couldn't hold it. He set down his fork, the clink echoing like a gavel. "The gift, the dress, Serafina. What the hell does it mean?" Evelyn's hand fluttered to her throat, pearls clicking softly. Harlan cleared his throat, gaze dropping to his plate. "Thought it was time," he muttered. "Time you knew the whole of him." "The whole?" Christian's voice cracked, raw as an exposed wire. "Roger was my husband. I knew him. Every scar, every laugh, every goddamn fear. He wasn't. He didn't." He trailed off, the image of Roger in that dress fracturing his mind. Broad shoulders draped in lace, his husband's easy grin twisted into something feminine, forbidden. Evelyn rose, gliding to a sideboard drawer, and withdrew a photo album, its cover cracked like parched earth. She slid it across the table, fingers lingering. "Open it, Christian. See our boy. All of him." He flipped the cover with trembling hands, and the world tilted. There was Roger, not the actor in fishnets from their cabaret nights, but a girl, no, a young woman, in a sundress, hair long and wavy, laughing on a swing set. 17, maybe, eyes sparkling with that same mischief. Captioned in Evelyn's hand, "Serafina's first prom, 1998. Below it, another, Roger at 18 in a cap and gown, but the dress peeking from under the robe was the twin of the one in the box. "Oh God!" Christian whispered, slamming it shut. Betrayal bloomed hot and vicious in his chest. Not just Roger's, but theirs. for hoarding this ghost while Christian mourned a man who'd never fully been his. He never told me. Why? Harlan leaned forward, elbows on knees. Wasn't his truth to share, son? Not after. The change. The change. The word hung, heavy as fog rolling off Lake Champlain. Christian's mind reeled, piecing fragments. Roger's aversion to old photo albums, the way he dodged questions about high school, the single, cryptic tattoo on his ribcage, a phoenix rising from lace. Transition. Roger had transitioned female to male, Serafina to Roger, sometime after college, before the world, before him, and he'd buried her so deep, even in death, she clawed her way back. I loved him, Christian said, voice breaking. All of him. Why hide? Evelyn's eyes softened. Finally, a crack in the facade. He was ashamed, dear. Of us, of the small town that whispered. We supported him, paid for the surgeries, the hormones, but he wanted a clean slate in the city. Said it was his fresh start. Harlan nodded gruffly. And you were part of that. His happy ending. But as Christian drove back south that evening, the dress on the passenger seat like a passenger from the past, happy ending felt like a lie. Grief twisted into anger, anger into a hollow ache. Roger had given him everything. Laughter in dive bars, quiet mornings tangled in sheets, a love fierce as a subway spark. But he'd kept this locked away, a chamber of the heart Christian never breached. Was their marriage built on half-truths? Had every kiss been shadowed by Serafina's ghost? Back in Brooklyn, he hung the dress in the closet, next to Roger's suits, the silk whispering against wool. Sleep came fitful, dreams of Roger dancing in lace under harvest moons, his hand extended. Dance with me, Chris. All of me. He woke sweating, dawn painting the walls pink, and reached for his phone. There was one person who might understand. Marcus, Roger's old theater buddy, now directing off-Broadway in Hell's Kitchen. If anyone knew the seams of Roger's soul, it was him. They met at a cafe on 9th Avenue, the kind with mismatched chairs and baristas who didn't bat an eye at public tears. Marcus arrived in a flourish of scarves and cologne, hugging Christian like a lifeline. You look like shit, Hale. Spill. Christian did, the words tumbling out over lattes. The box, the dress, the album, the revelation that upended his world. Marcus listened, eyes widening behind wire-rimmed glasses, then let out a low whistle. Serafina. Fuck. I knew of her. Roger let it slip once, after too many Manhattans, said she was the role he couldn't quit. But he swore it was ancient history. Ancient. Christian's laugh was bitter. She shows up now when he's gone. It's like betrayal with a bow. Marcus stirred his drink, spoon clinking thoughtfully. Or closure, man. Roger's folks, they're old school, yeah? Maybe they thought it was time to pass the torch. Integrate her into the family you built. Family. The word stung. Theirs had been small but solid, brunches with friends, holiday cards from the dog they'd finally adopted last Christmas. A scruffy mutt named Scout. Now it felt fractured, Serafina the fault line. That night, alone again, Christian pulled out Roger's journal, scouring for more. Pages blurred. Rehearsal notes, love sonnets to see. Until he hit a loose leaf at the back, dated a year ago. If I go first, tell Chris about Sarah. She was me once. Tell him I hid her because I feared he'd love her less. But he won't. My Chris loves fierce. Tears blurred the ink, and Christian clutched the page to his chest. Roger's handwriting a lifeline. Maybe Marcus was right. Maybe this wasn't the end of their story, but a deeper chapter. But doubt lingered like smoke. The next day, a call from Evelyn. Come back, Christian. There's more. His stomach nodded. More secrets? He agreed, the drive north heavier this time. The dress in his bag like an uninvited guest. The Whitaker farm felt different on the second visit. The autumn chill seeping through the cracks like unspoken accusations. Christian arrived at dusk, the sky bruising purple over the silos, and found Harlan in the barn, tinkering with an old tractor that wheezed like a dying beast. "'Bout time," Harlan grunted, wiping grease from his hands on a rag. Evelyn's inside, Got the attic cleared. The attic. Christian's pulse quickened as they climbed the narrow stairs, dust motes dancing in the flashlight beam, the air thick with the scent of aged wood and forgotten lives. Evelyn waited at the top, a banker's box at her feet, labeled RW, private in faded marker. "We should have done this sooner," she said softly, her voice stripped of its usual polish. "But grief, it blinds us." Inside the box, relics of Serafina, a diary bound in cracked leather, playbills from high school musicals where S. Whitaker starred as Juliet and Marion the librarian, a locket with a miniature portrait of a teenage girl whose smile was Roger's, softened by curls and rouge. Christian's fingers traced the pages, the diary's entries a time capsule of turmoil. "Mom found the binders today. Dad just hugged me. Said, 'Whatever makes you happy, kid.' But school, the whispers. I feel like a bird in a cage, wings clipped. Hormones started at 16, top surgery at 20. The name change a quiet court filing before Roger fled to New York, reinventing as the man who'd steal Christian's heart at that gallery bash. Blue eyes like trouble, Christian had written in his own sketchpad that night. "Why now?" Christian asked, sinking onto a trunk amid the cobwebs. "After the wedding, the life we built. Why send the dress like some afterthought?" Evelyn knelt beside him, her knees creaking. The dress was hers, Serafina's, for her sweet 16. Roger kept it, said it reminded him of innocence lost. When we lost him, I found it in his things at the house. Thought it was a sign. A way to say, "This is family, Christian. All of it." Harlan shifted uncomfortably, his bulk filling the doorway. "We weren't kind, boy. To you, to him. Thought the city would cure him of, well, you know." He gestured vaguely, encompassing the gay marriage, the transition, the life that defied their Norman Rockwell dreams. "But seeing you grieve, hell, it cracked us open." Christian's throat tightened, cracked open, like him, piecing together a mosaic of half-memories. They spent the evening sifting through the box, stories spilling like cider from an overturned jug. Serafina's first crush on the quarterback who turned out to be queer too. The family trip to Montreal for vocal training that doubled as therapy. Roger's decision to bury her, not out of shame, but survival. He wanted to be seen as he was, not what he escaped. Evelyn explained, tears carving tracks down her powdered cheeks. By midnight, Christian lay in the guest room, the farmhouse creaking like a ship at sea, and dreamed of Roger. Not as the star of their rom-com life, but as Serafina, twirling in that dress under string lights, beckoning him closer. He woke with a start, heart racing, and slipped downstairs for water. Harlan was there, nursing a scotch by the stove. "Can't sleep either, huh?" "Ghosts," Christian admitted, pouring a glass. "Feels like I married a stranger." Harlan chuckled, low and rueful. "Ain't no such thing. Roger's heart was always his, big, messy, all in. He chose you, son. Knew you'd handle the rough edges." Rough edges. The phrase stuck as Christian drove home the next morning. Evelyn pressing a quilt, Serafina's, pieced from her old dresses, into his arms. "For cold nights," she said. The city swallowed him again. Honking taxis and steam vents a bomb to his raw nerves. But the quilt draped over the couch like a flag of truce. Work called, a freelance gig designing posters for a queer theater festival in Chelsea. And Christian threw himself into it, sketches of intertwined bodies evolving into figures half shadow, half light, echoing his turmoil. Marcus dropped by the studio, bearing falafel and frank talk. "So spill the attic tea. You okay?" "Better," Christian lied, then amended. "Unraveling, but in a good way, like Roger's more. Whole now." Marcus nodded, munching thoughtfully. "That's transition grief for ya. Layers on layers. Hey, you should come to the show Friday, Angels in America revival. Cathartic as fuck." Christian went, the theater's velvet seats a cocoon, the stage lights bathing actors in ethereal glow. As Prior Walter raged against heaven's indifference, tears streamed unchecked down his face. Roger had played Roy Cohn once, in a basement production, channeling that venomous denial with a ferocity that left bruises on Christian's soul, in the best way. Afterward, At the cast party in a loft overlooking the Hudson, laughter bubbled up unexpectedly, wine loosening the knots. That's when he met Theo. Theo was 29, a lighting designer with ink-stained fingers and a smile that crinkled his hazel eyes. His laugh a warm rumble over the din of toasts and jazz. They bonded over shared disdain for Rent, overhyped AIDS opera, Theo quipped, and Roger's ghost hovered polite, a chaperone rather than a barrier. "Sorry," Christian said later, as they walked the high line under a canopy of twinkling bulbs. "I talk about him too much." Theo shrugged, hands in his coat pockets. "Don't apologize. Means you loved hard. That's hot." The kiss happened spontaneously, there amid the rustling grasses and distant skyline hum. A soft press that tasted of Merlot and possibility, Theo's stubble grazing Christian's like a promise. Guilt flickered, sharp as a struck match, but Theo pulled back, eyes searching. "Too soon." "No," Christian breathed, surprising himself. "Just new." They dated tentatively at first, coffee in Greenpoint, hikes in Prospect Park where Scout bounded ahead, oblivious to heartbreak. Theo was easy, unlayered. A Jersey boy who'd come out at 15. No skeletons in his closet, just a tattoo of a lighthouse on his forearm. "Guides me home," he'd say, tracing it during lazy afternoons in Christian's bed. But nights brought dreams of Serafina, her dress whispering not yet, and Christian woke tangled in sheets, Theo's arms slung over his waist like an anchor. The conflict simmered, bubbling over one crisp November evening. They'd planned a quiet dinner, Theo's lasagna, Christian's contribution a bottle of Roger's favorite cab. But the quilt caught Theo's eye, draped over the armchair. "This is gorgeous. Family heirloom?" Christian hesitated, fork midway to mouth. "Sort of. From Roger's mom." "Complicated." Theo's brow furrowed. That designer's curiosity piqued. "Complicated how?" The words spilled then, unbidden. The dress, the album, Serafina's shadow. Theo listened, lasagna cooling untouched. His face a map of empathy. Shock widening eyes, then softening to understanding. "Whoa, that's a lot. He hid that from you." "Yeah." Christian's voice cracked. "And now it's like, was our love real? Or built on a foundation of omissions?" Theo reached across the table, hand warm on Christian's. "Love's never clean, Chris. It's all the mess, the transitions, the secrets, the way we stitch 'em together. Doesn't make it less real." But doubt festered. Days later, a letter arrived from Evelyn, handwritten, fragile as onion skin. "Dearest Christian, Harlan and I are coming to the city. We want to see you, to meet your life as Roger would have wanted." Dinner? Panic clawed his throat. Meet Theo? The Whitakers, with their farm-fresh homophobia simmering beneath politeness, felt like dragging Serafina into the light, forcing her to dance for strangers. He called Marcus, voice pitching high. "What do I do? They're like dinosaurs and loafers, nice enough now, but one wrong step." Marcus laughed. "Invite em. Show em your world. Roger's ghost would approve. Hell, he'd direct the damn scene." The dinner was set for a Saturday at Christian's. A neutral ground, or as neutral as a Brooklyn apartment could be, with its rainbow flag in the window and framed playbills on the walls. Theo helped prep, chopping onions with military precision, his calm a counterpoint to Christian's jitters. "Relax," he murmured, kissing Christian's temple. "I'm just the boyfriend, not the main event." But as the buzzer sounded, Harlan's booming voice echoing up the stairwell, "You who? It's the Vermont invasion." Christian wondered if any of them were ready for the encore. Evelyn swept in first, bearing pies and hugs that smelled of lavender and home. Harlan followed, a bottle of maple bourbon under one arm, eyeing the space with gruff approval. Cozy, like a stage set. Theo charmed them instantly, his easy banter drawing laughs as he poured drinks. "To absent friends," he toasted, clinking glasses, and for a moment, it worked. Stories flowed. Evelyn's quilting mishaps, Harlan's fishing tales, Theo's lighting disasters that left actors in the dark mid-soliloquy. Then, inevitably, the quilt. Evelyn's eyes lit on it, softening. You kept it. Yeah, Christian said, throat dry. It's comforting. Harlan cleared his throat. That thing's seen more lives than a cat. Sarah made half the squares herself. Stubborn as her old man, that girl. Theo glanced between them, piecing it. Sarah? The room stilled, forks pausing. Christian's heart hammered. Now or never. Serafina. Rogers. Before. He transitioned. The dress you saw in the photo? It was hers. Evelyn nodded, chin high. Our daughter once. Our son always. Theo absorbed it. No flinch, just a quiet damn. That's beautiful. Complicated, but beautiful. Harlan grunted approval, but his eyes on Theo held a new weight. Appraisal, perhaps acceptance. The evening stretched, laughter thawing the edges. But as they left, Evelyn pulled Christian aside. He's good for you. Roger would like him. Alone with Theo, dishes piled in the sink, Christian collapsed against the counter. That wasn't a disaster. Theo grinned, drawing him close. Understatement. But hey, betrayal's got nothing on this. We're writing the sequel. Yet in the quiet hours, as Theo slept, Christian traced the quilt seams. Serafina's stitches a map of survival. Love, he realized, wasn't erasure, it was expansion. But expansion hurt, and the real storm was brewing. Winter clamped down on New York like a vice, snow blanketing the streets in deceptive hush, muffling the city's perpetual roar. Christian and Theo's rhythm deepened. Mornings tangled in flannel, evenings at indie films in the village. Scout curled at their feet like a furry chaperone. Theo's presence was a steady hum, grounding the chaos Serafina's revelation had unleashed. They'd even hung the dress in a guest room closet, a silent sentinel, and Christian found himself touching the lace sometimes, not with anger but curiosity. A bridge to the boy who'd become his husband. But peace, in stories like theirs, was just the setup for the fall. It came via email, innocuous at first. A link from an old theater contact. Subject unearthed gem. Roger Whittaker footage. Christian clicked in his studio, mid-sketch for a Pride campaign, expecting grainy rehearsal clips. Instead, a Vimeo thumbnail. Roger, early 20s, on stage in a black box space, lithe and androgynous in a slip dress, belting I'm Not That Girl from Wicked. The voice, Roger's, but higher, laced with a vulnerability that twisted Christian's gut. The date, 2003, a year after his transition, a cabaret called Echoes of Eve at a now-defunct club in the meatpacking district. He watched, transfixed, as Roger, Serafina still in the hips, the gestures, poured heartbreak into the mic, the audience a sea of shadows. Applause thundered, then a cue and a, Serafina? What's next? Broadway? A laugh light as spun sugar. Nah, I'm shedding skins. Next act, Roger. Clean slate. The video cut, but the damage lingered. Clean slate. Had Roger performed the self long after, in stolen moments Christian never saw? He showed Theo that night, screen glowing in the dark like a confessional. Theo watched in silence, then pulled Christian onto the couch. It's him, all him, not betrayal. Art. Art? Christian echoed, but the word tasted bitter. He performed me too, you know. Our whole life a goddamn improv. Theo's hand tightened on his. Or he was protecting you from the pain of his past. Protection or prison. The question gnawed as Christmas approached. The city decked in garish lights that mocked his inner gloom. The Whittakers invited them upstate. Full family affair, Evelyn wrote, enclosing train tickets. Theo was game. Maple syrup and mistletoe? Sign me up. But Christian hesitated, the farm now a Pandora's box of memories. They went. The Amtrak ride a cocoon of shared headphones and Theo's thigh pressed warm against his. The farm glittered with twinkle lights, Harlan's handiwork, and Evelyn's feast rivaled a Norman Rockwell fever dream. Turkey, cranberry relish, pie spiked with bourbon. But under the cheer, tension simmered. Harlan pulled Christian aside by the wood stove, embers crackling like suppressed confessions. Got something for you, son. From his pocket, a USB drive. Old home movies. Thought you'd want him. That night, in the guest room with its quilted bedspread, Christian plugged it in on his laptop. Grainy's transfers flickered to life. Serafina at 8, gap-toothed grin on a pony. At 14, awkward embraces, rehearsing monologues in the barn. At 19, post-op, voice cracking as he told his parents, "I'm Roger now. For real." Evelyn sobs, Harlan's stoic nod. Then, a clip from New York. Roger, 25, calling home. Mom, Dad met someone. He's everything. The camera panned to a blurry photo taped to the fridge. Christian and Roger at their first date, grins wide as the Hudson. Tears blurred the screen. Everything. Yet he'd hidden so much. Theo stirred beside him, voice sleepy. "You okay?" "Yeah," Christian whispered, closing the laptop. "Just layers." Christmas morning brought forced joy, gift wrap ripping, scout chasing ribbons, but Evelyn's present to Christian was the hammer blow. A letter from Roger, unsealed, dated the week before the crash. "My dearest Chris, if you're reading this, I'm gone. First, love you more than scripts or spotlights. You saw me, truly, when I was scared no one would. About Sarah, forgive me for the silence. She was the dress I outgrew, but parts linger, the grace, the ache. Tell our story someday, all of it. Make it sing. Yours are." Theo read it over his shoulder, eyes misting. He knew, planned to tell you, but he didn't. The words hung, accusation and elegy. Back in the city, the new year dawned crisp and unforgiving. Christian threw himself into work, the Pride posters now infused with Phoenix motifs, rebirth from lace and shadow. Theo supported, patient as a saint, but cracks showed. A canceled date for Design Crunch. Christian's distraction turning dinners silent. "Talk to me," Theo pleaded one February night, snow lashing the windows. "I'm not Roger. I don't want to compete with ghosts." "You're not," Christian snapped, then deflated. "But Serafina, she's everywhere. In his laugh, our routines. I feel like a fraud, loving you while half of me mourns her." Theo's face crumpled, hurt flashing raw. "Then go mourn. But don't shut me out. That's the real betrayal." He left, door clicking soft as a sigh, and Christian spent the night pacing. Roger's letter clutched like a talisman. Fraud. The word echoed. Was he? Loving Theo felt like sunlight after eclipse, warm, unearned. But grief wasn't linear. It looped, dragging him under. Spring thawed the ice, but not his heart. Marcus dragged him to auditions. Channel this shit into art. And Christian landed a callback for a one-man show about queer legacies, veils and vows. Rehearsals became therapy, monologues ripping open wounds. "I married a man who danced in dresses, and I never knew the steps." The director, a fierce dyke named Lena, nodded approval. "Lean in, Hale. That's the climax." Climax. It arrived unannounced, mid-April, with a knock at dawn. Harlan on the stoop, hat in hands, face ashen. "Evelyn's gone, boy. Heart attack last night. Sudden." The farm again, now a house of mirrors. Every corner reflecting loss squared. Evelyn lay in the parlor, serene in her Sunday best, quilt draped over her knees. Harlan wept unashamed, a mountain crumbling, and Christian held him, the man who'd once eyed him like an intruder. "She loved you in her way," Harlan choked. "Said you were the son she prayed for." Funeral was small, Methodist hymns clashing with Christian's pagan ache. Afterward, in the attic, Harlan handed him a final box. Evelyn's diaries. "Read 'em. For her." Pages chronicled Serafina's birth. A girl, perfect as dawn. The confusion of puberty, the terror of transition. My baby, fracturing. But Harlan's right. Love him whole. And later Roger called. Married that Christian. Voice lit like Christmas. We're grandparents in spirit now. Grandparents. The word pierced. No kids for them. By choice. Roger's acting nomadic, Christian's freelance flux. But Evelyn had dreamed bigger. Back home, diaries beside the quilt, Christian called Theo. Voicemail. "Miss you. Call if you're ready. He was almost. But first, confrontation. He drove to the Whitakers one last time. Harlan brewing coffee in the empty kitchen. Why the dress, Harlan? Really? The old man sighed, cup steaming. Evelyn's idea. After Roger died, she dreamed of Serafina. Dancing at the wedding she never had. Thought sending it to you was mending. Telling you we accepted all of him. Us. Mending. Christian's eyes burned. It broke me first. Harlan nodded. Grief's a bastard. But look at you still standing. Like him. Driving south. Wind whipping. Christian blasted Roger's playlist. Show tunes laced with grit. Defying gravity hit. And he sang along, voice cracking. Serafina's echo in his throat. Theo waited at the apartment. Takeout Chinese steaming on the table. Hey! Hey! Christian pulled him close. Kiss fierce. I'm ready. For us. But readiness was illusion. May brought the show's opening, veils and vows packing the tiny theater in Alphabet City. Christian on stage, spotlight hot, spilling guts. Roger's secrets, Evelyn's grace, Theo's anchor. Audience gasped, laughed, wept. Standing ovation thundering like Judgment Day. After party buzzed, but Christian slipped out, needing air. On the fire escape, phone buzzed. Unknown number. Voicemail played. A woman's voice, hesitant. Mr. Hale? This is Rachel Whitaker, Roger's cousin. I saw the show. About Serafina. We need to talk. There's more. More. The word chilled him, betrayal's old friend. Rachel, the name from a faded album photo. A cousin who'd vanished after college. What now? Another layer, another dress? He didn't tell Theo, not yet. Instead, he met Rachel in a diner off Union Square. Her face a feminine echo of Roger's. Sharp cheekbones. Blue eyes wary. Coffee steamed between them. I was Serafina's best friend, she said, stirring sugar absently. Before the change, we shared everything, crushes, dreams. Then Roger left and I had a letter. From him. For you. She slid an envelope across, sealed with wax. Roger's flourish. Chris, open when doubt creeps. He tore it open right there, hands shaking. Babe, if this reaches you, it's because the past clawed back. Sarah wasn't just a phase. She was my muse. The dresses? Her joy. I hid her to protect us from judgment. But know this, you were my truth. Love her through me. Rachel watched, eyes soft. He confided in me, end of his life. Wanted me to find you if. Said you deserved the full script. Full script. Christian's laugh was half-sob. He always was the director. But as he left, envelope burning in his pocket, the betrayal shifted. Not anger, but sorrow for the boy who'd hidden to be loved. Theo met him at home, sensing the storm. What happened? More ghosts. Christian handed the letter. Theo read, then folded him in. We got this. Together. Yet the together frayed at the edges. June's heat wave brought tempers. Theo's late nights rigging lights for a tour. Christian's monologues morphing into obsessions. One night, post-argument. You're still married to his memory. Theo shouted. Christian stormed out, wandering the humid streets to Roger's old haunt. A drag bar in Hell's Kitchen called Silk Noir. Inside, queens strutted like royalty, lip-syncing to Gaga. Christian nursed a gin, eyes on a performer in ivory lace, the dress or its twin. She caught his stare, sauntered over post-set. Honey, you look like you lost your lines. He spilled, the gin loosening tongues. Roger, Serafina, the endless unraveling. She listened, then, I'm Vesper, and that story is yours now. Own it. Own it. Back home, Theo asleep on the couch. Christian knelt, apology on lips. I'm sorry for pulling away. Theo stirred, eyes red-rimmed. I get it, but I need all of you, Chris. Not the half that's still grieving. All, Christian promised. But promises crack under weight, and the climax loomed, betrayal's final act. July 4th exploded over the East River, fireworks blooming like wounds in the night sky. and Christian watched from Theo's rooftop with friends, the city a canvas of chaos below. Laughter rang hollow. Rachel's letter had unearthed more. A cache of emails from Roger to her, post-transition confessions. Sarah misses the stage sometimes. The sway of skirts, the illusion. But Chris, he's my reality. Illusion. The word festered, turning every memory suspect. Had Roger played a part with him? The easy affection, the proposals whispered in Central Park. Performance or passion? Theo sensed the drift, his touches lingering, questions gentle. You're miles away, babe. They'd fight in whispers. Give me time, Christian pleaded. Time's all I'm giving, Theo countered. Then make up in fevered sheets, bodies a temporary truce. The show ran extended, audiences swelling, reviews praising Christian's raw vulnerability. But each curtain call left him hollow, applause echoing Roger's silence. Then the betrayal landed like a thunderclap. A tabloid blip, late star's secret. Trans past exposed in Widow's Tell-All. Splashed across queer blogs, twisted from Christian's monologues into sensational fodder. Veils and Vows star Christian Hale reveals husband Roger Whittaker's hidden female identity. Shock, scandal, speculation. Photos. The dress from a cast photo, album scans leaked God knows how. Christian's phone erupted. Texts from Lena, PR nightmare? But spin it. Marcus, fuck the haters. Evelyn, Harlan's furious. Lawyers. Theo found him in the bathroom, head over the sink. Retching. What the oh shit? He scrolled the article, face paling. This is. They outed him. Posthumously. Us, Christian gasped. They outed us. Roger's choice, my grief. Mincemeat for clicks. Theo pulled him up, arms steel bands. We'll fight it. Statement takedown. But the damage spiderwebbed. Calls flooded. Reporters sniffing for quotes. Old friends surfacing with, I always knew Barb's. Even Harlan, voice quaking. Evelyn would roll in her grave. This ain't honoring him. Christian retreated, unplugging his phone, holing up in the apartment with Scout's wine and the quilt's weight. Theo paced, helpless. You can't hide, Chris. This is the conflict. Face it like the show. The show was art. Christian snarled, voice venom. This is violation. Roger's dead, can't defend himself. And me? I'm the fool who spilled for catharsis, now paying with his ghost dragged through mud. Theo stopped, hurt etching lines. I'm here, fighting with you, but you're pushing me out, like he did his past. Like he did. Christian whirled. You think this is easy? Loving you while Serafina screams from every headline. Theo recoiled. Screams? Or you're using her as shield, so you don't have to risk real hurt again. The words landed like blows, silence thick as fog. Theo grabbed his keys. I love you, Chris, but I can't be the rebound in your tragedy. Call when you're all in. Door slammed. Gone. Alone. Christian shattered. Sobbing into the quilt. Roger's letter crumpled in fist. Risk. Real hurt. Theo was right. He'd armored himself in grief. Serafina the moat no one crossed. But now, exposed, the moat drained dry. He drafted a statement, fingers flying. Roger's story isn't scandal. It's survival. Serafina was his light before his truth. I share not for pity, but pride. Let his legacy be love, not lurid headlines. Posted to Instagram, it went viral, queer icons amplifying, Serafina Strong trending, even a New York Times op-ed invite. But victory tasted ash. Theo's silence stretched days into weeks. August humidity mirroring his sweat-soaked nights. Rehearsals for the show's close became penance. Monologues laced with fresh fire. Betrayal isn't the secret. It's the world's hunger to devour it. Closing night, house packed. Christian poured it out. Tears real, voice breaking on I choose you, all of you. And in the front row, Theo. Eyes locked across lights. A nod. I'm here. After party was subdued. Rooftop under stars. But Theo waited in the wings. Saw the post. Brave. Christian stepped close. Scent of Theo's cologne a lifeline. Missed you. Needed you. Theo's smile was tentative. Missed you too. But We gotta talk boundaries. Your grief's welcome, but not the boss. Deal. Kiss sealed it. Slow burn under city glow. Fall whispered in, leaves turning, and they rebuilt. Therapy sessions in a village walk-in. Theo's hand in his as Christian unpacked Seraphina's joy, Roger's fears. Evelyn's quilt became a picnic staple, spread in Washington Square for impromptu dates. Harlan visited, bourbon-fueled bro hugs with Theo. You're all right, kid. But romance deepened in quiet beats. Theo's light show for a friend's wedding. Christian designing the invites. Phoenixes in lace. One night, post-dinner at Theo's, a ring box on the table. Simple band. Engraved all of me. Not proposing yet, Theo said, nervous laugh. Just placeholder. For when life's not scripting drama. Christian slipped it on, tears pricking. Perfect fit. Yet the humanistic arc curved toward shadow. November chill brought news. Rachel, digging family archives, uncovered a bombshell. Seraphina's birth certificate, amended, but whispers of a clinic error. Roger had a twin, she confessed over coffee, face pale. Girl stillborn. Named her Seraphina too after mom's mom. He carried that name for both. Twin. The revelation hollowed him. Roger's transition wasn't just escape. It was reclamation. Honoring a sibling lost before breath. Betrayal flipped. Not hiding but holding sacred. He told Theo that night, curled on the couch. Makes sense now. The dress, worn for her in him. Theo kissed his temple. Your husband's a poet. Even in silence. Climax crested Thanksgiving. Family mashup at the farm. Harlan's turkey. Theo's vegan stuffing. Rachel flown in. Stories weaving like tapestry. Laughter flowed, toasts to ghosts, to Seraphina, to Roger, to us. But as plates cleared, Harlan pulled Christian aside. Eyes grave. One more thing. From Evelyn's will. A deed half the farm. In Christian's name. For the boy who mended what we broke. Tears came, hot and healing. Ownership not of land, but legacy. Winter solstice, they drove to the city, ring box in pocket. Theo knelt in Central Park, snow dusting his hair. Marry me, Chris. All in, the mess, the magic. Yes, Christian breathed, pulling him up. Kiss under lamplight, fireworks of their own. The wedding planning unfolded like a jazz riff. Improvised, soulful, unscripted. No grand affair. They opted for a rooftop ceremony in Brooklyn. June's sunset gilding the skyline. Guests a mix of theater familiars, farm kin, and queer chosen family. Christian wore a linen suit, Theo in seersucker. Rings exchanged under a chuppah draped in quilt squares. Seraphina's legacy fluttering in the breeze. Vows poured raw. Theo's I see you, layers and all. Christian's you pulled me from the dress's shadow into light. Harlan teared up, officiating with gruff charm. By the power vested. Well, you know. Honeymoon was a road trip, Vermont to Ohio, tracing Roger's roots. Then west to Chicago's blues bars, Theo's playlist syncing with the miles. Stops at diners, motels with neon signs. Scout in the back seat like a furry witness. One night in an Adirondack cabin, fire crackling, Christian traced Theo's lighthouse tattoo. Guides me home, Theo murmured, and they made love slow, bodies a dialogue of forgiveness. Back home, life settled into humanistic grace. Not perfection, but presence. Christian's graphic design bloomed into a studio partnership with Marcus. Posters for trans youth orgs splashed with phoenix lace. Theo lit rent revivals, irony not lost. They adopted a second dog, a lanky greyhound named Sarah. Her awkward gallops a daily joy. But endings echo beginnings. Grief's tide ebbs, never vanishes. Anniversaries brought Roger's ghost gentle. A toast at dinner, the dress refashioned into pillows for their couch. Evelyn's quilt warmed winter nights. Harlan's visits peppered with tales. Your boys got Sarah's fire. One spring dawn, Christian woke to Theo's note. Gone for bagels. Love you. He wandered to the closet, pulling the dress. Now a banner hung for pride. Fabric soft under fingers. He whispered, thanks for the dance. The city stirred outside. alive with promise. Betrayal had been the storm, but love, fierce, layered, American as apple pie and subway serenades, the sun breaking through. In the end, it wasn't happy or tragic, but human. A story stitched from secrets, mended with mercy, worn with pride.